Project Motor Racing is just around the corner, and it is great pleasure that I'm able to present to you today Project Motor Racing for the very first time. I did manage to gain early access to Project Motor Racing thanks to my partner status with Giant Software. What we're seeing here is the introduction in the first race that I ever ran in PMR. Approximately an hour after installing it, I decided let's fire up just a casual race weekend and see how things work. Of course, we had a timed practice session, we had a timed qualifying session, and we're about to start our first 12-lap race here at Candian Motor Sport Park. I was rather surprised that I was able to qualify third on the grid, and well, you're about to see how we fare, at least for the first half of the race. We start out third, but we don't exactly finish there, and I'll kind of explain that later on in the video. Now, Project Motor Racing includes 70 recreated cars across 13 different classes, and you're going to be able to race on 18 global track locations with multiple track configurations across many of those tracks. Project Motor Racing includes single-player and multiplayer gameplay. They call their single-player gameplay survival style, and we'll have a separate video where we dive into what does that really mean. With respect to multiplayer, we're looking at no subscription, no fee ranked online races. In addition, if you want to set up a private lobby for your friends or family to get in and have fun on a weekend, you can do that at no additional cost. There's also some cool, interesting asynchronous gameplay options. I'll explain those here in a little bit. Project Motor Racing is running on the Giants engine, and as such, PMR will also include mod support not only for PC, but also consoles. Now, what are the features that really set PMR across from other recent racing simulation releases? Well, PMR includes something called True to Track technology, which includes dynamic weather conditions, adaptive racing drop line for drying conditions or wet tracks, and a 24-hour day-night cycle. In addition to that, career mode can have some pretty severe consequences. You can race in either classic mode, or for the hardcore, try authentic. And in authentic, there's absolutely no redos. If you mess up the race in turn 1, well, you just DNF there, buddy. There's no chance to go back and try again. I don't think I'm going to be touching authentic for quite a while. Unlike other popular racing titles, career mode isn't simply a ladder where you have a series of race championships in order to run, and if you finish well, you can move on to the next. In Project Motor Racing, you have to make some pretty significant decisions, and every decision is ultimately going to matter. For example, where do you establish your headquarters? Because that could severely affect the travel costs to go to races. What car do you want to register to race in? Where do you want to race? What sponsor model do you want to pick up? How do you manage your on-track action? Are you a clean racer, or are you more of a bump and run kind of a guy? The advice I'm going to give is directly from the reviewer's guide. Don't strive for perfection, strive for longevity. Now, I mentioned asynchronous gameplay. What does that really mean? Well, there's two different modes. There's factory driver mode and endurance hall mode, each with its own unique global leaderboard. Set your fastest lap in the factory driver challenge, or compete full distance endurance runs with the endurance hall challenges to see how you stack up against the rest of the world. No waiting, no lobbies, just jump in and run your race. Now let's fast forward a little bit. Later on in the race, I came into one of the final turns a little bit too hot. 2-second time penalty for running a little wide on the track. Come on. No distinct advantage was given at that point. Definitely not worthy of a 2-second penalty. Well, I managed to run wide down at the tight hairpin as well. So at the end of the race, I ended up picking up 4-second time penalty. While I finished third, I actually finished fifth in the race. Again, not that bad of an outing, given the first race of the career here in Project Motor Racing. But I definitely do need to look at the settings to see if I can turn off these track limit penalties. Yep, right there. I went in a little hot, a little bit too fast. I shifted down into second like I had all throughout practice, qualifying, and the race. But I think I was a little bit too quick. The back end locked up. I lost rear traction and slid wide for another 2-second penalty. At any rate, let's actually jump in the game and check out the menus. Upon launching Project Motor Racing for the very first time, if you have a wheel and pedals, you're going to have the opportunity to map your main driving controls. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. Choose your experience level, rookie, intermediate, or experienced veteran. I'm going to go with intermediate because, well, I have some experience with respect to sim racing, and I wouldn't really call myself an experienced veteran. With that said, let's go ahead and center our wheel. Okay, we have our wheel centered, and we're going to hit confirm. On the steering wheel or keyboard. Okay, so keyboard, unwind your wheel to a 90-degree position and hold it there. All right. Sure. Okay. Press the throttle. All right. Press the brake. Press the brake. All right. Press the clutch. Yep. What button would we like to use for shift? Yep. And shift down. Yep. Basic setup is now complete. Okay, cockpit. So we have our main Project Motor Racing interface. We can hit X or come down here to the cog in the lower right to go into settings. And there are a ton of settings in this game. Quite frankly, it can be a little overwhelming and confusing. I was a little taken aback for a little while until I kind of figured out that there's not only game settings, there's actually settings for each individual car as well. So we have our display settings, pretty straightforward. Your resolution, are you going to run full screen, windowed mode, borderless windowed mode, VSync on or off? I turned VSync on only in order to limit my frame rate. Since I am a content creator, I didn't want to max out my GPU, getting max frames, and then possibly suffer issues with respect to game capture. So we are going to max our frame rate out at 90 FPS. But if you want, you can go ahead and leave that uncapped. I'm also maxing out my FPS in menus at 60 because, quite frankly, you don't need more than that in the menus. With respect to graphic settings, this is what I've got right now based on a recommendation from Giants. I am running a 4070 Ti Super in this PC. We are running at 1440 resolution, as you saw in the display settings. So we're running a custom profile. I've got motion blur turned off, as well as depth of field, draw distance, and LED distance are set to 150. Screen space reflections off, as well as screen space shadows. SSAO quality is high, actually very high. Atmospheric quality set to very high. Volumetric fog, ultra. Clouds is set to off. Texture resolution is set to ultra. Texture filtering, ANSO 16x. Lens flare quality, high. Shadow quality, ultra. Shadow quality distance, ultra. Shadow map filtering, ultra. I've got the field of view set at 75 degrees. But it defaults to 60. But I was really suffering with this one because it wasn't changing my field of view, and I didn't understand it one bit. Well, it turns out you have a field of view setting when you get into your race weekend. And that's adjusted at the car level. I was rather shocked at that. Post-process anti-aliasing, DLSS, I've got set to quality. DLSS frame interpolation, I've got set to 2x, and everything else is turned off. Now, with respect to audio, I do have the music turned off. That's just because I can't be sure that that music is going to be copyright free. You may choose to leave the music on. That's up to you. Under assists, I've gone ahead and turned the racing line on. You saw that in the gameplay when we were in cockpit view. When we were in our replay view, you didn't see that racing line. I like to run the racing line because, well, I'm really focused on the car in front of me. I'm not necessarily focused on all my braking points at all the times. And the racing line does give me a little bit of a clue if I'm a little bit too hot into the corner or if I'm maybe on the throttle a little bit too early in the corner. So it is a racing aid I like to run. I'm not a pro sim racer. I'm going to turn it on. If you want to leave it off, that's fine. That's up to you. I've got most of the other assists set to authentic, which means if the car has traction control, then it's going to be turned on. If the car doesn't have traction control, then obviously it won't be turned on. You do have a choice of force on or authentic. So if it's forced on, then even if the car doesn't have traction control, it will function. I do have forced on for the pit limiter and pit box indicator. I have also set to on. And with your transmission, you have the choice of automatic upshifts, automatic, or manual. With respect to your key bindings, you could come in here and further modify your key bindings. For example, if you were going to be using a H pattern shifter, you could come in here and define all of your shifting controls there as well. Input device settings is basically going to be your force feedback settings. And I've adjusted these somewhat. It's still a little bit of a work in progress. But what I also learned, and I'll show you a little bit later, is you can adjust some force feedback settings per car. So I've got these set, and then when I was doing the race weekend with the Aston Martin, I kind of made a couple subtle tweaks with respect to the Aston Martin force feedback. And then, of course, we have our preferences where we can change how our units are measured, either in imperial or metric. And then do we want to see cinematic sequences and such. Should you wish to change acceptance of the terms of service for online, you can come here and you can do that as well. Back at the main menu, if we come in here into multiplayer, we do have a choice of entering into a ranked lobby, custom lobby, social, and then if we have blocked any users, well, we'll be able to see those there. So with respect to ranked multiplayer in Project Motor Racing requires a license. So before you can run ranked multiplayer races, you do need to obtain a specific license per class. So for example, here we're looking at the MX5 spec. And in order to get our PMR license, well, we're going to have to run the MX5 at Lime Rock Park. We're going to have to run 8 laps within 8 minutes and 20 seconds. Once we've passed that test, we'll be granted access into the Project Motor Racing online ecosystem for the MX5 spec only. With respect to custom lobby, we will have a dedicated video set up for this a bit later. Right now, it looks like no lobbies are set up. And then social, looks like we can come in here and basically run various laps, and we'll see if we can beat the time listed. Under single player, we do have the choice of doing a race weekend. This would be a one-off race, and this is what I ran when we started the video. That's the recording I was showing you. Or we could do a career. With respect to career, you do have 3 save slots. So you could be running up to 3 different careers at any one point in time. We're going to have a separate dedicated video diving into all of the career options. And then we have the asynchronous gameplay options in the challenges menu. So from here we have, for example, Endurance Hall, and we could run a LMDH class race at Spa, 43 laps, and basically see where we finish, starting 5th. And we would also then see a lineup here of everyone else who's run this particular race and where they finished. And basically, you can come back and run this race as many times as you want to possibly improve your ranking. Other races, for example, also are the LMDH at Sebring. We have the Bathurst 250, 40 laps at Bathurst, running the GT3 class cars, starting in 3rd. And well, you can see there are quite a few options with respect to the Endurance Hall. As far as factory driver program, well, once again, we do have that global leaderboard, and we can see all of the different challenges, the different tracks that are going to be on those challenges, and what car is going to be involved. For example, here, we're going to be running Spa in the Maserati MC12 GT1 with a target of 2 minutes and 16 seconds. We see Victor here. He's already established that. So he set a nice benchmark for everyone else to shoot for. Downloadable content is, of course, going to be the Mod Hub when that does get released. So we're going to have vehicles. And we already have one here listed. Let's go ahead and install that just to see how that works with respect to installing mods in the game. We have liveries, and we can grab different liveries as well for the existing cars. Let's go ahead and grab those. And then we also have career events where we could run the GTO Daytona 250 endurance race. Neat. So this is going to be a endurance race again with a GTO class in career mode, consisting across 41 laps, 250 kilometers. This event takes place in the hot Florida afternoon and should have an estimated runtime of roughly 90 minutes. Cool. So let's go ahead and install that also. That gives you a little bit of an idea of what types of mods you can have available. And the fact is, we are definitely going to have day one mods from Project Motor Racing and Straight 4. And then lastly, we have our driver profile. Let's go ahead and set our driver up. Let's give ourselves a name. Right? And give ourselves a nationality. What should our suit color be? We have silver, golden beige as the primary color, flaxen yellow, burnt orange, burnt red, crimson red, purple, royal purple, slate blue, ocean blue, sky blue, cobalt blue, cerulean blue, midnight blue, forest green, emerald green. Looks like we're going to have lots of different choices here. Steel gray, charcoal. I'm going to go with burnt orange. Sure. Secondary suit color. Sure. Let's go with something here. Silver, and then our suit highlight color. Let's go with yeah, something atrocious like steel gray. Sure, why not? You see we have global rating, so our ratings will be established based on our online multiplayer. Again, once we've established a license and have run some ranked races. We're going to be able to see our results with respect to our driver career. This was the race I ran at the start of the race, or the start of the video. You can see we ran 12 laps, took a total of 50 minutes and 56 seconds. We had 4 seconds of penalty. We started third, finished sixth, and well, technically we lost 3 positions, but I finished third. 4-second penalty is what made me get in there into 6th place. Lap records, we can see our best lap at Candian Motor Sport Park. You can also see listed all of the other tracks that are going to be available here in the game. We might as well run down through those. So we've got Brizana Grand Prix, and excuse me, I will be mispronouncing some of these. Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. We have Spa. We have Daytona Road Course, Derby Grand Prix, and Derby National. We have Kalami Grand Prix, Lexington Chicane, Lexington No Chicane, Lime Rock Park with Chicane, Lime Rock Park Road Course, or Lime Rock Park Sports Car Course. Mount Panorama Grand Prix Circuit, Northampton Grand Prix, Northampton International, Northampton Original Pits, Nuremberg Grand Prix, Nuremberg Nordschleife, Nuremberg Nordschleife 24 Hours, Nuremberg Sprint, San Marino Grand Prix, Sebring Grand Prix, Sebring Johnson Club Circuit, Sebring School Circuit, Spielberg Grand Prix, Spielberg National, Sao Paulo Grand Prix, and Zoldar Grand Prix. Those are going to be the tracks available upon launch. We can have saved replays we can come back and watch later. And of course, then we have various stats for our driver based on different classes. See, we've already driven 241 miles in the GT3 class. You check out our career, total money earned, highest money ever earned, longest running race, best career races, total career championship wins, total race wins, and then we have various achievements. All the various licenses that we could get, and other achievements as well. It'll be interesting to see how many of those we managed to unlock during our gameplay. Now, one of the last things I want to show you in this introductory video relates to the specific settings you can set within each particular car. And to do that, I came into a free race weekend. We're sitting here at the practice session, and we're going to go to vehicle setup and tires and chassis. From here, of course, we have the ability to change our tire compound and our tire pressures, but we also have some settings that I think are fairly unique for Project Motor Racing that I really haven't noticed existing on some other race sims. With respect to steering, we can change the steering rack rate per car. So the higher the number is going to mean the car is going to respond faster to your steering input. Lower the number, it's going to respond slower. Steering stiffness is going to be how light or loose the steering feels. Too stiff, and basically the steering input is going to feel really noisy, jittery and things. Too smooth, and well, it's going to be like I can't feel the track at all. So if you're having some difficulty with respect to steering, you may want to come in here and feel in the road. You may want to come here and adjust this per car. Remember, steering dampening is going to add some resistance to smooth out the steering motion, which can cause things like violent oscillations in direct drive wheels to be smoothed out, making the wheel a little bit more manageable. Now, with respect to force feedback strength, again, this is going to be managed per car based on then this car setup. This is going to adjust how strong the force feedback is for a specific vehicle. So this is over and above the force feedback settings that we set in the main menu. Rack feel is going to be basically the raw steering movement that you feel through the steering wheel. At 1, this setting does nothing. If you set this less than 1, then the force feedback power will be limited. So if you do have a high Newton meter force wheel, then lowering this may make the wheel a little less violent if you get into, say, a crash. And low levels we're going to be reducing the power, which can lessen your overall feel of the feedback. Alignment boost is going to amplify how much you feel the front tires self-aligning as grip fades and comes back. The higher you set it, the more you'll feel the actual understeer or the sliding of the tires across the road surface. Too much though, and well, you can completely lose touch of the road. Load boost. Force feedback signals are based on lateral g-forces, and while this is a raw physics output, it is not rack or tire signal. Adding load boost and reducing the low EQ can be used for more seat of the pants feel on your car. Friction adds artificial resistance to simulate the mechanical steering friction of your race car. This can make the wheel feel more realistic, but if you set it too high, then it can be a pretty difficult wheel to turn, and that might not be the best for your ability to respond and catch a slide or something like that. Now, with respect to EQ, as the force feedback setup guide kind of explains, this is like a sound equalizer for force feedback. It lets you shape which parts of the signal to stand out. EQ low, increasing the low frequencies can help with load feel. Reducing load frequency can help thin out the feel that may be too syrupy or thick. Adjusting the mid EQ can give you more focus on a lot of the car's dynamics. Reducing the mid feel frequency can help you control over aggressive wheel reactions if too much is happening on a rough surface. Sebring, for example. Or you can adjust the high EQ level, and this can basically increase or decrease the road and curb feel. So if you're having issues knowing or feeling if you're getting on the curbs or not, then you may want to bump that up. Or if you're having difficulty with keeping the wheel under control because you hit a curb, then you may want to bump this down a little bit. And again, all of these settings are done per car. Again, something that I haven't really noticed in other race sims as of late. Other settings, of course, are going to be related to your overall car setup, and what you're seeing here is going to be related specifically to the GT3 class, which is what I loaded up for this quick rundown. Now we also have the ability to set up our cockpit. And here, again, per car, we can adjust the steering look if we do or don't. Basically look where we are steering. We can adjust all sorts of settings here. I don't really need to run down through every single one, I don't think. We can change our seat position, and specifically, if we want to sit closer or further back from the wheel, we can do that. If we want to slide our view, we can do that as well. Or if we are having a hard time, we want to maybe get a little bit higher, see a little bit more of that road surface, we can obviously do that. Now, this is where I finally was able to set a field of view and have it actually stick. So if we come back to the defaults, I felt like I was sitting right on top of the steering wheel at 54 field of view. I changed it to 60, and quite frankly, and quite honestly, I immediately saw lap time benefit as a result of simply adjusting this field of view. So if you're finding the field of view is maybe a little too far, a little bit too close, coming in here to your actual cockpit setup per car can be very useful. And we could also adjust our mirrors to more fine-tune what we're seeing out of our side mirrors or our center mirror if the car should have one. We have the ability to set up our HUD. What do we want to see? Do we want to see the mini-map? Yes or no. Do we want to see the virtual mirror? Yes or no. Penalties. Do we want to see those pop up? Yes or no? Wheel inputs display. You can turn that off and on as well. And then HUD layout is really cool. We can come in here and we can modify where things are in our screen while we're running the race. Do we want to get rid of things? Do we want to move things around? All we can do is just kind of jump from widget to widget and kind of move things wherever you might want to see them. Right, so for example, we can just move everything up here to the top and leave our bottom view completely unobstructed. If we're finding that right, maybe we do that. And we can save it, or if we don't like it, we can reset it back to default. And that's going to conclude our quick intro into Project Motor Racing. Again, we're going to have dedicated videos dropping throughout the weekend that's going to focus on multiplayer, single player, the challenges, as well as other features within the game. We're going to be doing some live streams as well. So definitely, if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel. This is our secondary channel. Our main primary channel is focused on Farming Simulator, and this channel is going to be focused on everything else that I play. And Project Motor Racing is, at least for a little bit, going to take a front seat in those games that we play outside of Farm Sim. We're also going to be introducing a multiplayer series on this channel. And if you want to run multiplayer games with us, then you will need to join the Discord. I've got a link to that in the description. We're going to be setting up a series or competition, and we're going to have a series of races. We're going to schedule them all out so you can practice. And once a week, we're going to jump in and we're going to run a nice, friendly multiplayer race. Now, this is going to be serious, so if you don't want to race seriously, then please don't join up. Until next time, keep those wheels between the lines.